Hi to all dear viewers and subscribers. My name is Maxim Branevsky. I was born and live in the territory of the former Soviet Union. You probably notice it right away from my accent and pronunciation. I am an engineer, physicist, and also researcher in the field of ufology and paranormal phenomena. And I have a lot of experience in researching UFO cases on the territory of the former Soviet Union. I mean countries such as Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Latvia, Estonia, and other nearby countries. So the information you will hear from me is quite unique for many viewers from countries outside the former Soviet Union, because this information most likely has not yet been presented so globally. So subscribe to the channel and like this video. It will be very awesome. Today we will consider in sufficient detail a very interesting case of UFO sighting, which, as we will see later from this story, was a spaceship with a crew of aliens on board. This case happened to a certain Viktor Kostrykin on the night of July 6 to 7, 1968, near Khushto-Syrt, small town located about 64 kilometers from Mount Elbrus. Actually, Mount Elbrus plays a key role in this whole story, since the Soviet times Soviet ufologists have often received information that people have constantly seen UFOs in the vicinity of Mount Elbrus. These UFO sightings in the vicinity of Mount Elbrus continue to this day. So, according to the information that I have collected about Mount Elbrus, there are very serious reasons to believe that there is a base of extraterrestrial civilizations near it, or directly inside Elbrus, and perhaps not even one. Indirectly, this is also shown by UFO sightings in the city of Nalchik, which is located near Mount Elbrus. Residents of Nalchik usually told when UFOs began to appear in the sky. At first they appeared near Mount Elbrus, and gradually increased in size and began to move to Nalchik, then flew over the city, while sometimes they went to Nalchik airport and hung there for hours. And then UFOs made a kind of detour in the sky around the city and flew away again in the direction of Mount Elbrus. Therefore, the existence of a base of extraterrestrial civilization near Mount Elbrus is by no means speculation but indirect signs of UFO sightings near Nalchik. As for the main character of this story, Viktor Kostrykin, well-known Soviet ufologists assume that Viktor really visited the alien spaceship more than once. Among these researchers was Marina Popovich, a well-known female Air Force pilot in the USSR. I also knew very serious researchers from Soviet times who confirmed that this contact took place in reality. But one of the most significant, although indirect, confirmations of the reality of this contact was that after encountering extraterrestrial beings, Viktor Kostrykin discovered psychic abilities in himself. So he could hear the thoughts of people and animals, could scan the human body for chronic diseases, and even treat people with the energy of his biofields, and also see at any distance and so on. He repeatedly attended various UFO forums and meetings in the USSR and demonstrated his psychic abilities. It should be noted that, as experience shows, all people have psychic abilities, but it's just that many people have them in a kind of blocked, dormant state. In some cases of encounters with aliens, these abilities are unlocked for a number of reasons, and the person begins to use them. That is, a person becomes a psychic. So it was some introduction to the story, and now let's go directly to the story itself.
Until 1962, I had little faith in the existence of unidentified flying objects, until I saw one myself on a summer August night. It happened in the village of Blagoveshchenka in the Prokladninsky district of Kabardino-Balkaria at about 10 p.m. Watching the satellites, I suddenly saw a very high, bright luminous dot of the first magnitude. Rhythmically changing its luster, but without flickering, it moved across the sky in a northeasterly direction from the main Caucasian range along a very strange zigzag-shaped trajectory. The object was moving fast. The changing direction of a UFO movement strictly at right angles did not fit into our concept of physics. Any terrestrial object at this speed and turns will collapse. So there is no inertia there? And if there is no inertia, then there should be no mass. But if there is no mass, then there is no time. It's all very strange. Struck by an unusual mystery, I watched a UFO for 5 to 7 minutes. It cannot be said that, having gone on an odyssey, I did not feel fear at all. However, interest suppresses thoughts of danger. So it was on the night of July 6 to 7, 1968. I was 33 years old at the time. From that moment, research, analysis, and new observations began, which, combined with my other works and observations, and subsequently with the most incredible events, I believe, led to a number of separate clues and new riddles. At the same time, in Blagoveshchensk, I remembered my childhood and my grandmother, who told me that even before the revolution they saw strange fireballs flying over Nalchik. So, I began to look at the starry sky more and more often. I began to calculate my forecasts of UFO visits. At first, according to my forecasts, dozens of people saw them, then hundreds, thousands, and even tens of thousands of people. Often, for observations, excursions into the mountains were organized. But a group of observers, especially unprepared, is already a company that has escaped from the clutches of the city into the wilds. It was certainly fun, but we sat around the campfire or behind fishing rods and looked at the fisher floats rather than looking at the sky. Therefore, I began to walk by myself without any company. I reached the mountain village of Khushto-Syrt in the Chayjem Gorge. Khushto-Syrt in translation from Bakr means Kusht's hill, that is, a ridge. From the village, I went up to the alpine meadows behind the Chayjem waterfalls. Why did I choose this particular area? Because it was in this part of the sky that I often saw UFOs. In the late afternoon, I settled down on a haystack. There was a pleasant smell of fresh hay. After all, it is safer and more convenient on the haystack. You can lie on your back and survey the entire sky. And the stars are so amazing. Of course, I didn't even dream of any UFO contacts. I was just looking into the depths of the universe with detachment. I expected, of course, to see the UFO flight visually, if only I was lucky, to once again make sure that my forecast was fair. Even then, I began to plot UFO routes on the map of the Republic, and interesting patterns began to appear. It was about 3 in the morning. Suddenly I saw a meteorite falling steeply, unusually bright. Then the brightness disappeared and a further descent continued almost nearby, accompanied by smoky swirls. Out of surprise, I got up, stunned by the sight, and then sat down on a haystack, for some reason waiting for an explosion. Silence, no sounds. My vigilance has been mobilized. And then, very close, from where there was a forest, I felt a terrifying look. I looked. 100 to 150 meters away, I see, as it seemed to me, a man is burning, but he stands calmly. I instantly slipped off the top of my observation post and took to my heels. I thought it was a burning almasty watching me, which in the Kabardian language means a forest man. For some reason, I feverishly concluded that the dormant almasty caught fire from our space technology during its emergency falling, and now I will have to answer for all this. In a hurry, I even forgot the smoke puff charges, taken to the mountains for protection. But I was stopped. The agility left me. I neither moved my legs nor raised my arms. Absolutely does not hurt, and there are no goosebumps on my body. My own hair on my head and all over my body rose as if electrified. Cold sweat broke out on my face, my heart was beating faster, and my consciousness was clear. Soon the state of stiffness and oppressive fear passed. My confusion was replaced by an extraordinary lightness in the whole body and mobility. I heard that my name was called, and I went to the call. Behind the hillock on the clearing, there was a huge disc-shaped vehicle of light tones, undoubtedly metallic and undoubtedly of unearthly origin. Portholes glowed around the perimeter of this disc-shaped object. As I got closer, I saw that these were not portholes at all, but simply open round pipe outlets. There are absolutely no portholes, which exist in our concepts. Along the radius, the pipes went deep into the flying vehicle, and outside they glowed with some special light of a milky hue. The pipes went to the center, like spokes from the rim to the hub of a wheel. Strange light circled the hull of a disc-shaped vehicle in places as if obeying a magnetic field. The impression was created that this metal spaceship was in some kind of light cocoon. I was met by a being that we look like, with some exceptions. Flaming fiery highlights still ran through his silver spacesuit, and then they went out. The being has the same hands with 5 fingers, legs, and so on. His height is the same as mine, or a little higher. Later, they explained that a person, finding himself in such conditions, perceives the world in a distorted form, that their real height is 6 meters. They can even compress space, or vice versa, expand it. His clothes were light, and some kind of glow emanated from his head and hands, especially noticeable outside the spaceship. His figure is slender and lean, his body proportions are normal, and his movements are sedate, slow, I can say some kind of dignified. They really don't like it when people talk to them loudly or wave their hands. I was stopped repeatedly with the words, "Keep your voice down. Don't wave your hands." With a gesture, I was invited to enter their spaceship. I crossed the threshold of their spaceship, where all earthly power ends, and perhaps our 3-dimensional dimension. It was warmer in the compartments than at this time in the alpine meadows. My steps were muffled. The light inside the spaceship is soft and does not resemble either electric or our daytime light. There are no sharp shadows in the room. The light is rather closer to natural daylight, like milk, and falls from above. I have not seen the sources of light or do not remember it. In the depths of the spaceship, control panels stood against the wall, colored signals were flashing. Furniture or other objects come out and go under the floor or into the walls. There are absolutely no curtains or latches visible on the wall, but the wall can part and a screen appears. I saw that. I noticed several more beings here. There were 5 of them in total. They are all dressed the same and look like each other, like twin brothers. My exultation sought to pour out at the sight of the surrounding, so unimaginable. Their heads are large, oval elongated full faces. Their faces seemed to me cute and somehow special. It immediately gave the impression that they were looking at you and even knew what you were thinking. No hostility or curiosity on their part. The biggest feature is their eyes. They are large and spaced at an angle. It seems that they see the same way both full face and in profile. Such a wide-angle view is very frightening. Perhaps it is necessary at superluminal speeds. Perhaps our vision is less perfect. I do not draw any conclusions. There is something, as it seemed to me, bird-like in their look. Their heads are crowned with an item, as it seemed to me, made of golden stones, in front like a skull cap, and on the side like a side cap. This is a brain phone for transmitting conversational thoughts at a distance. Soon, to my considerable surprise, I discovered that there were no ornaments on their clothes. There were no welts, stitches, not even buttons, seams, zippers, or buckles. There is a semblance of folds at the ends of sleeves, pants, neck, and belt. The clothes are white with glitter. I've seen their soles are thick, like our micropores. I didn't have to watch any other outfits. They have short hair, but for some reason, they seem white, although their faces have absolutely no wrinkles and look very young. I introduced myself to them. I told them that I was a Caucasian Chaldan, a man from the Don, an indigenous person. I immediately received an answer that there are only 4 indigenous nationalities in the Caucasus and that the rest of the people are newcomers or mixed. They listed them. They have their own or ancient names, and only reminded me of the word Svans, although Svans call themselves Kepsers. They even indicated the location of each national group, but I didn't remember. I was very impressed by the strangeness of their appearance, and the sedateness in their movement, some kind of stability, expediency, complete confidence. In colloquial speech with a person, extraordinary communication is used when it is heard inside the head. I tried to cover my palms, plug both ears with my fingers, and make turns and tilts of the head. I can hear their messages anyway. But the direction of the sound source is stable and does not change from changing the positions of the head. I asked them questions in my own language. Restrained and quiet. The answers from them were clear, lucid, without unnecessary words, straight to the head, as they say now, telepathically. In the purest modern Russian language. In order to check, I asked if it was possible to speak Kabardian or German. There was a dialogue between me and them. Do you know these languages better? No? Then speak Russian. There is no language problem for us. They addressed me very politely and correctly. The voices are young and differ in timbre and direction. The emotional state is felt. They respect witty, healthy humor. When they talked to me, they didn't even open their lips. It was as if a hidden translator was acting, but the timbres and intonation are different. Hence, there was a direct linguistic thought from them, strictly oriented by the correspondent to my head. So telepathy is not a fantasy of modern science fiction, but a reality. They communicated with each other in some incomprehensible language. I remembered the word Talalela. I was asked to sit in a very comfortable chair and was told in Russian, "Now our way to the mountain," and one of them pointed in the direction where Mount Elbrus is located. While in the chair, I again drew attention to the original rectangular sign above the entrance to another compartment. The tablet seemed to be made of gold, and colored stones on it. The drawing meant something. Then 2 alien beings approached me, similar to twins. One of them had black gloves on his hands up to his elbows. Here I drew attention to the hands. They were distinguished by grace. The fingers are elongated and thin. The hand is even beautiful. The gloves are, as it were, made to order. No wrinkles or creases. The material was amazing in its quality. There was absolutely no gloss or glare on the gloves, of an amazing property. Absolutely black in color. I looked at those who came up to me, not without fright and wariness. I think, what else are they up to? What if they start getting me now? Meanwhile, they took my left hand, turned my palm sideways, took my thumb away, and brought a shiny device to the place between my thumb and forefinger with a gloved hand. A moment later, a piece of my skin appeared on the device. And on my hand there was a red triangle, 6 by 6 millimeters. There was no pain and no blood at all. And immediately before my eyes, the wound began to heal. Then, emboldened, I said, I know what these gloves are and what they are for, because I accepted their appointment, as well as our medical ones. Not a word was uttered in response to me. Suddenly, a hand in a black glove, with all 5 fingers, began to sink into my chest. With dilated eyes, I contemplated an offbeat sight. There was no skeleton or muscles for a gloved hand, and my t-shirt, which I was wearing, was not an obstacle to it. I felt absolutely no pain and no other sensations. When the glove deepened and touched my heart, then I cried out in pain. The gloved hand quickly came back up out of my chest. There were no traces of blood left at the penetration site. Mind-boggling. Up to that moment, my heart was not healthy. They immediately found the heart defect and fixed it. They can do major surgeries without blood. How to explain such transformations, I was already afraid to find out, but I asked why they needed my skin. They replied that a large source of information was recorded there. It turns out that several human bodies can be grown by them from such a flap of skin. They told me that people themselves began to seriously harm their shells and their biological bodies. In some distant generation, our human shell, the organism, will not meet the assigned requirements and will not be able to fully perform vital functions. The annual increase in background influences, radioactive, chemical, electromagnetic, informational, and so on, not very noticeable now, is detrimental to the future. The term of that future is under their control. The fatal dose increases rapidly. DNA samples are regularly taken on all continents, not only from humans, but also from animals. Thus, the huge genetic fund of the planet Earth is constantly being updated and replenished. With all their visits to Earth, they treat everything very carefully. Despite the fact that our military often tries to fire at their spaceships. But also there are alien visitors, unfortunately, and the opposite, unfriendly type. Both opposites conflict with each other. But here we are talking about kind and friendly visits. They often visit nature reserves, Caucasian, Astrakhan, Ascania Nova, and others. Hence, the record frequency of UFO sightings in these places. They said that the radioactive elements uranium and plutonium, being in an oxidized state, are, as they were, tied hand and foot. We are now stubbornly engaged in removing these fetters. And then, figuratively speaking, these substances begin to dance, both with their feet and hands, that is, to show radioactivity. These figurative expressions give a vivid representation. But this is not enough. Dancing Soviet uranium, plutonium, and so on, send their greetings to the American uranium and plutonium, and so on. Radioactive elements, figuratively speaking, are not only dancing, but also holding on to each other with long arms, especially since we have untied their hands for this. And now the worst is expected ahead, because, it turns out, there is a critical weight of large masses, which can lead to the greatest explosion and the death of the planet Earth. Everything radioactive interacts wherever it is, in an atomic bomb, in a reactor, in a warehouse, and so on. We, Earthlings, are already close to this large critical mass, and again they have it under control. Like all nuclear strategic facilities on Earth, they are carefully watched over and protect us from thermonuclear war because we are able to harm not only ourselves, but also other beings on Earth and in space. I continued to sit in this same chair, and already as if in a dream, I remembered how a black oblong rectangle was brought to my eyes. Surely some kind of device. From the orbits of my eyes, a kind of smooth, bluish glow began to crawl out, float out. By rotating the eyeball, I could see a steady light. Then they examined my large birthmark on the calf of my right leg. They found a spot on my forehead, just above the bridge of my nose. Before that, I didn't pay attention to it. The purpose of such research has remained unsolved for me. I told them that they had apparently been living somewhere in the neighborhood for a long time. The answer was something like this: they lived not only in the neighborhood but very far away. Immediately, the aliens gave a block of information about themselves. They live in a large stellar, habitable zone adjacent to our galaxy. There is a corridor between our galaxy and their zone, along which they make space flights. The fuel for their spaceships is ordinary water, which can generate energy, thereby causing the space travel of their huge spaceships, similar in structure to crystals. Aliens live on their planet for a very long time in comparison with us. If we take the cycle of an average Earthling, then his life is approximately 1 minute of the alien's life, in our understanding of time. All our earthly civilizations are subject to catastrophic destruction associated with large cycles and rhythms of a cosmic nature. The development of their civilization is not overshadowed by such factors and is preserved by the power of knowledge. However, the aliens are surprised that Earthlings, without waiting for large cycles, are trying to destroy themselves and eliminate all life on the planet. This worries them and attracts attention, forcing them to exercise relentless control over the processes taking place on Earth. Having assimilated this information, I said, "Now I see your favor and do not doubt it, but why is there a place for evil on Earth?" In many ways, the people themselves are to blame. And besides, there is another world next to you, but hidden from your physical eyes. Can I see it? You'll see it. I was offered to get out of their spaceship. After I got out of the ship, I was shown a fight between a black and a white creature, as if in another dimension non-visible to our physical eyes. Then I was called back to the spaceship. And inside it, they later explained to me that the black creature had long lost its light clothes, and since time immemorial, was not capable of good deeds. That it is also indestructible and can shrink, infiltrate, and cause harm to all living things, but it does not have access to its spaceship. They explained that light energy dots and balls accompany people on Earth. They are watching with an enhanced patrol even for our terrestrial astronauts who are in flight on the orbit of Earth. Also, all strategic nuclear facilities on Earth are under their relentless control. I woke up early in the morning on July 7th. I was sitting on a straw, or rather, with my back to a stack of straws, all wet, apparently from dew. Far below, right in front of me, I saw a long ribbon of freeway and running cars. The place was familiar, but it was no longer the meadows of Khushto-Syrt, where the meeting took place, but the Kyrgyzstan shelf. In the Kabardian language, the Kurkazinski shelf means the shelf of the dawn ghosts. At first, I couldn't figure out how I ended up here. There was a feeling of some strange experienced danger and depression, or as if from a great lack of sleep. Straining my memory, I remembered that in the evening I went to Khushto-Syrt, which was high in the mountains, behind a rocky ridge, and ended up here. Bypassing the Baksan district, I got to the Zalski district. I didn't lose my sense of reality either at night or in the morning. Even if I assumed some kind of unconsciousness or delirium, I would not be able to cross high mountains and rapid rivers on my own and get here. Pictures, dialogues, meetings, and images of such unusual alien beings surfaced in my memory. Everything was like total reality, not hallucinations, not deception of my feelings. The day before, that day, and in general at that time I was absolutely sober. I had only mineral water with me. Fascinated by the experience, I tried to capture the wealth of impressions. Having gathered, I headed for the freeway, and soon I was home. Here I just realized that they had intentionally dropped me on their spaceship closer to the highway, from where I can get home faster and easier.